Let's go. Hi, everybody. There we go. Hopefully it went live this time. There was one stream where I was like streaming for like 20 minutes and found out it wasn't live.
I see my face through the internet.
Great.
I do too.
Is this a Q&A? Yes, it sure is. Welcome, Spatula Mishap. So today is an AskClevEndeav day, or AskClevEndeav. Let's start off by introducing ourselves for people that may not know. Rich.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Richard. I'm CEO at CleverEndeav. I do business stuff and also some work on the games as well. And yeah, well, that's me.
Tyler?
I'm Kyler. I'm the Chief Creative Officer. I do art and animation and game design and some programming at the end. So lots of different things.
Then I'm Steph, the community manager at CleverEndeav / marketing person. For those who don't know, you guys are, is it fair to say, 2 of the 3 original creators of Ultimate Chicken Horse?
Yes, indeed.
So,
way back when.
Yeah. You have a lot more questions, or you can answer a lot more questions about the game than I can.
Yeah, it's been 37 years on this game now? No, we're at 6 and a bit. Yeah.
But yeah, we have some questions that are from the Discord, but if anyone in chat has questions, feel free to ask them, and we'll try to get them as well. It can be about the game, it can be about game development, it can just be about getting to know us as people, whatever. Throw us your questions. I just spilled coffee all over my keyboard.
Should we take care of the questions?
Yeah. I was just like, talking very animately with my hands. Let's start with
You're excited.
Yeah. How is our workday routine? What is it like? What is our workday routine
like? Kyler, you go first.
My workday routine. What do? I get in, everybody, we always check in on Discord of when we sit at our desk so people know we're there, and we write down pretty much what we're going to be working on. Usually that's around 9:45, 10, and then at 10:30 we have a daily inbox meeting where we all join up on Discord and chat about what's in the inbox, which is like a document that gets any relevant pieces of agenda items put on it, so we can chat about that, whatever came up in the previous day, and we do a little is it a scrum? No,
it's a scrum. Yeah,
it's a stand up from Scrum where you just talk about what you did yesterday and what you're doing today, and if anything's blocking you or you need help. And then usually, if there's no meetings, we just go to work and work till the end of the day, or if there's meetings, we have various meetings as needed. And that's the typical day.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the person too, because like, I don't know, Fabio, for example, might be doing an art task, and like most of the day is one task, which is just that creation of whatever the art thing is. But then other folks like myself have a bunch of little random things that pop up, and like an email that pops up in the middle of the day that means you then have to go find a document and change something and then send it to someone and wait for the answer. So it's a little bit all over, but
yeah,
within that structure that Kyler
work on something else for the rest of the day rarely happens.
Yeah.
Although I think we're getting better at it.
Yesterday,
maybe not Steph,
I
because
actually did.
Steph's work
was amazing.
Yeah, me too. It's that said, half the team had like sick days or vacations, so it makes it a little easier. But yeah, Steph, I guess your work is quite different in that way.
Yeah, it's a lot of small things throughout the day. Kind of like Kyler said, come in. Usually my first things I do is I check my email, check the Discord, then the inbox, then checking all the other social medias, and then what do I need to do today? What do I need to plan for future? And like I said, meetings. And all sorts of stuff. Yeah, that's it. Let's see.
Guess it's not that complicated when we're only 6 people.
Yeah, I'd say like what we do day to day changes, but it's generally what it's like. So since the Hippo update came out, I guess this one's probably a good one to touch on from Quarkos, which is, are we planning on doing any bug fixes?
Yes, there are some more bug fixes left to do. And I've already done, like I did some of the code for some of them. And then there's more to figure out that we just haven't gotten to yet. But there will be another layer of little hot fixes and bug fixes to the Hippo update.
Yeah.
I don't have a date on that.
Yeah, when it's ready.
Yes.
But yeah, we're aware of a couple of issues that have cropped up. We're working on it. The Ultimate Chicken Horse, how would angled objects and color mixing affect the game? Saying for color mixing, they've been asking for like a paint dropper.
To be able to pick any color you want.
Yes.
That was a like wish list item that I've always wanted to add, and then it's just not enough time to add everything and fix all the bugs.
When it's between, a new character in the game or being able to choose from a color wheel instead of a list of colors, I think that's kind of where the decision falls to the wayside.
Angled objects is interesting in that when we like wrote all the code for the character controller, we hadn't thought of angled objects. But then technically in the game, when stuff is glued to rotators, you get quite big angled things. And we did have to do some work so that it works okay. If I added angled objects from the beginning, I would actually like put animation in that shows the character like tilting. Like they'd run up and they'd run down and have like, or their bodies would tilt or something. I would want to figure it out again. And then
because right now they're just like standing or
just like a
wall sliding,
that,
right?
Like moves around. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a very graceful transition between the two.
And
I guess if we could also do like, I would want like the Mario butt slide.
Yeah. That would be amazing. Where you like could speed up going down the thing.
I could use the sit drawings because like all the characters have sit on couch drawings and they don't get used anywhere else.
Yeah, except for the shared controller couch, right?
Yeah, that's the only spot.
I use them a lot for assets too.
Yeah.
Okay. Phew.
I was gonna say that. But actually the cannon object came from, somehow was inspired from a like diagonal trampoline that we had talked about, or that someone had mentioned in the community. It was, the idea was like you jump into it and it bounces you, or no, maybe it bounces objects. So it like takes an object, an arrow is coming at it, and it bounces it like 90 degrees. And then somehow that, I don't know if that was the same block, but that was discussed around the cannon. And then the cannon does essentially that. It does change direction of projectiles. It also shoots you out, obviously. But I remember there being some talk about like a diagonal spring, and then that's somehow...
it briefly was created, I think. But then I really wanted a cannon.
Yeah.
I wonder if
really
want things. Really want it.
I wonder if that asset at some point way back in the day, I made an image of chicken being shot out of a cannon going to PAX something. I think it was PAX South. So there was a picture of the chicken being shot out of a cannon that I like really crappily drew over a desert, and it just said like PAX South, whatever year we were going.
And you gotta do it.
Yeah. Do you think that had any effect subconsciously or other on that, or you think it was just...
I think it was, that might have had something, but I think it's more Donkey Kong of just having played Donkey Kong when I was little.
I love that level. was level in Donkey Kong in the snow where you get shot through all the different barrels. It was like, this is Donkey Kong Country 2 on SNES, showing my age in case that was up for debate.
I don't think I have.
So good.
I was gonna say, like, I know angles can be very difficult in game. Like, I don't think I've seen a single game do stairs properly, and that's not even like a true angle. They're always
Yeah.
really janky, and I see threads on Twitter explain why it's so janky, but just like, I don't know.
Someday I'll make it work for angles.
Well, often when they do stairs in like 3D games, they're just a slope, right?
Yeah.
You just play like a running on stairs animation, and then the feet are not actually touching the stairs; they're just touching somewhere vaguely around a stair.
I don't play a lot of AAA games. I'm sure it's changed, but I know like the Yakuza games later on when they're in the Dragon Engine, your characters like speed up or slow down on the stairs. It's like completely different, and it's much closer to like actually hitting individual stairs. But yeah, still not.
I played
great.
Control, and it seemed like they just zoomed the camera in enough so they couldn't see your feet.
Yeah, that's a good point. There was I saw a talk. I think it was a talk, like a tech talk about. I'm not sure if it was Assassin's Creed Valhalla or it was God of War, something with lots of snowy and Viking-y type things. And I think they did that kind of thing where it was what's it called, like reverse animation? What's it called, like inverse kinematics?
Yeah.
Kyler, you might know this. Basically, like it looked where your foot was going to land or landed and like did the thing backwards. So it did actually have like physical stairs, and you could run on different terrain, and it would like make it clear that you're not standing like through the terrain. So they had this terrain that was all cool and bumpy, but they're able to do it like procedurally with programming more so than animation. Very cool.
A lot of
Sorry
work.
for the
Apparently,
tech.
Star Citizen is going to have perfect stare and stepping.
Is that the
'Cause
game that
game
just
is-
like never comes out?
It will never. Yeah, it's been kickstarted forever.
Well, hasn't it been? I mean, it's been like 15 years or something that it's been playable the whole time, right?
Years.
Yeah.
Partially playable, and they've made like $300 million of crowdfunding or something.
I thought it was already like people spent their
they've already spent
lives in it already. No, but like in terms of just time gameplay, like I thought there were like hundreds and hundreds of hours of gameplay that one could play.
I don't know.
I never played it.
I don't know.
I think the game is watching the development.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So Jewish Hoser asked a question. Did the team ever experiment or play with games like Mario Maker and Battle Block Theater while designing Ultimate Chicken Horse?
I remember we went to like PAX or something, and it was the year they announced Mario Maker, and we were like, "Oh, what's that? Oh my goodness, what is Nintendo doing?"
Yeah.
But then, like, the game was out for quite a long time before I ever touched Mario Maker hands-on.
Yeah, and it was, like UCH had started being developed a long time before Mario Maker was announced. Battle Block Theater, I did play quite a bit of very early on, but I never actually even saw a link between Battle Block Theater and UCH, but I think it's because I played the like more story mode. I didn't really do the whole like level editing stuff. But yeah. I definitely remember seeing Mario Maker though and being like, uh-oh, this is going to be bad. But then it wasn't bad because people are like, look, it's Mario Maker, but you can actually play multiplayer.
And also it's on every other platform.
Exactly. So it worked in our favor, actually, I would think.
Yeah, now we can like describe what our game is easier. Because before that, it was always a bit hard to be like, what is it? 4-player Mario Maker. But that doesn't exist.
Sorry. making sure I'm capturing these questions here. Did you ever play the Incredible Machine? It is some similar objects, but in a different way. That's from Spatula Mishap.
I don't think I did when I was young, but I definitely see the connection.
Yeah, I didn't either. I actually thought Kyler did. Because I've heard that was the thing that the game is most compared to, from what I had heard before Mario Maker came out. At least everyone was talking about Incredible Machine, and I watched some gameplay of it, but never played it as a kid either. But I thought it was actually like a big inspiration in some of the block design that Kyler made. But apparently, I'm way off with that.
Apparently, is there like some repressed time where I had access to it and I don't remember?
What would that the Incredible Machine? What did that come out on?
It looks like it was on a bunch of different old things. Let's see if I owned any.
I thought it was like MS DOS.
It was on MS DOS and Macintosh. So like, it could have been on the Macintosh computers in like my grade 2 and 3 class or 4 class. But I don't think I played it because I think I just would remember it.
Yeah, Spatula said that was DOS back in the 90s. Yeah.
The thing that intrigues me about it is just like I've watched people play it, and the way that like everything is programmed just reminds me of how we programmed stuff in Ultimate Chicken Horse. And that it's like kind of, I don't know, it's like the hitboxes are very precise and very like small, and like everything is like very custom physics that interact with each other, which is kind of how Ultimate Chicken Horse works. It's not like Minecraft where it's like, oh, everything's just like a certain type of block and they interact with each other like this all the time. There's like really a lot of weird randomness in Ultimate Chicken Horse physics. Of just like one system is hard coded to work with all these other systems, like teleporters or glue. Yeah.
These are the symptoms of making a new thing and being like, it's going to be fine. It's not going to interact with any of the other things. And then we start playing it, and then it interacts with everything. And then we're like, crap, we have to redo this and this and this.
Sounds like game dev. Yep. Karn de Monstro was asking, who do we think sings Mainframe? So their headcanon is Monkey and Sheep.
Interesting. There's probably an actual answer to that. In that there's probably the person whose voice was recorded who probably also plays a character in the game. Would be my guess. But I don't actually know whose voice was in that.
I always thought it was like Robot Bunny. That would have been my headcanon.
It is very what's that thing called? The voice effect that
auto-tuned?
Yeah, auto-tuned. It's very like heavily auto-tuned.
It's almost like Vocaloid. Almost.
Although I think it would have been so much more work to do that, like to create it with a synth, than it would be to just record it and then slap like a whole bunch of effects on it.
You're right.
But yeah.
Here's a call out to the community. You can try and make an Ultimate Chicken Horse song with the software from Miku. Make a Miku Ultimate Chicken Horse song.
What's that software? Is it like an 8-bit?
I don't. Do you know the singer Miku?
No.
Oh no, we're gonna have to have a talk about Miku after this. So basically,
like online.
They made a software that makes like completely robotic tones. Like there's no, there was never like a voice actor or anything, and so they can sing songs via this computer/program. They made it open source, so anyone can be Miku. Anyone can make Miku songs. Because it's just like a robot voice software thing. very simplified. I'm obviously not a huge Miku fan, but like fascinating as a topic, and I highly recommend looking into it because it's wild and Miku is so popular. Like they have like virtual concerts with her and everything.
So who's they? I guess the company that makes the software.
I'm not 100% sure. I assume someone owns the rights to Miku.
I mean, I guess they must. It's interesting because I looked it up and it says like this person thing has a record label. I don't know who the record label is if they're not a real person, but very interesting.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
wild.
it says the character design is Creative Commons license, but the voice software is proprietary from whatever company. So that's kind of interesting too.
Highly recommend looking into it. It's very interesting. But yes, sorry, going back to the song. It would be pretty funny.
I always learn stuff when we do these AskClevEndeavs.
We have such wide knowledge bases. It's kind of fun. This one was from IE, which was what was the origins behind the Imgur button?
It was, we wanted a way for people to share screenshots of their levels easily. And then Imgur was just like the thing that we knew the most, and it had an open API where you could just make your image show up on the site, I think without logging in or anything. So that was just like the easiest, fastest thing.
Yeah, because I think if you tried to share directly like to Twitter or something, it would open up a web dialog thing, but it would ask you to sign in. And yeah, I remember we looked at some different options, and it was just like we weren't storing the picture somewhere on our servers, like I guess other games might. So I don't know, how do other games do it? Like, I know like Switch, for example, if you take a screenshot, it stores it on. It's just a screenshot. It's like it's in the Switch itself,
machine,
right?
Yeah.
But then like other games,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, this was just like get the easiest sharing thing possible, and then it was just like at the time we were like Reddit was definitely like an important part of getting UCH out, and then Imgur just like goes along with Reddit pretty much.
Was that put
We
in
also-
like really early in the game, or is that like a later update?
I think that was when we did the custom levels, so it was reasonably early that it showed up.
I also remember Polybridge, which was the game that came out in 2015 or 16, who the developers did a talk about making like GIF exports, like very quick, because Polybridge you would build a bridge and then have a car go over it, and you built it based on like physics and stuff, and it would break if you didn't build it right. And they did this talk about how much the sharing helped them, and how they made these GIFs that were just like auto, you press a button, it makes a GIF of like the 3 seconds of the car going over the bridge, and how huge that was for them. And I know that inspired some of our sharing. We didn't end up being able to do a GIF capture, but
yeah,
I remember that discussion at some point.
That was always just a hard thing, was that there wasn't such an obvious thing to aim the camera at to get like a 5-second good GIF, because like, yeah, you can do a run, but it's not gonna be like a nice small tweet that is easily visible.
Yeah. It also helps if the game is like fixed camera, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I know Chicory has some kind of GIF function from the main menu, I think. Which is interesting. You like doodle and then create GIF, and it shows the progress of you doodling on the main page.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
That's cool.
I am impressed how often I see like UCH clips shared to Twitter from Switches, probably always from Japan. Like, it doesn't happen that much in English, but from Japan, it seems like lots of people share their clips, which is pretty good because it's like a 30-second buffer or something that it records. So you
Yeah.
just take the good action moments.
I, for one, find recording on Switch very unintuitive. Because it's like it records the 30 seconds from the time that you hold it or something. Where sometimes you're like, I want to start recording now and then end it.
Oh, it does both?
It does like a backwards thing. So it
Okay.
records like the 30 seconds before you hit the record.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit unintuitive when I'm used to like start recording. Okay, now end recording.
Yeah. Yeah.
It definitely messed me up a little bit when I was doing like captures and stuff before. Rich, did you highlight the favorite cheese one?
I did. Sorry, I was just moving positions, so I'm gonna turn my camera back on. I did, because cheese is awesome. So why don't we talk about it? I don't know.
I hate how they put brie is not an allowed answer, because brie is my favorite cheese.
Yeah, I'd like to know why brie is not allowed. That is an important
smelly.
follow-up question.
I don't know.
Maybe it's like
So your favorite
too
is brie.
light. Yeah, maybe it's like too light of a cheese. I don't know.
But like, I don't know if like Emmental or like, I don't know if that counts. Then I don't see why brie wouldn't. So what's your non-brie answer then, Steph? If you're forced to by this questionnaire.
It's honestly pretty much the only cheese I buy.
Interesting. So no hard cheeses. Not a hard cheese kind of person.
I mean, I'll eat cheese with other things or in things. Like I love a mac and cheese. I love like the cheese on pizza. But I'm not really a huge like go and eat just a chunk of cheese. One exception,
You're
I do like the
missing
Gouda.
out.
The Gouda baby bells are really good.
Hmm.
Specifically the Gouda ones. Yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm like lactose intolerant or something, but I just never really enjoyed cheese until later. I really like brie, which is ironically one of the worst ones if you're lactose intolerant.
Yes. As a lactose intolerant person, I agree. I like in chat that brick of Parmesan. I'm on board with that too. Have you ever had a bite of just like of a big chunk of Parmesan? You just cut off a piece that's like kind of too big when you're trying to grate it, and it's so good. But I'm not sure I would opt to do that on purpose.
I have the greatest cheese combination thing ever that I bet I'm like the only person that eats. But it's like my favorite thing, which is, do you know crispy minis?
Like the rice things?
The little rice things. They have a cheddar flavored one of those, and then you put on a scoop of cottage cheese on top of it.
Whoa.
It's like
You and your
crunchy
cottage
and
cheese. You
It's
love
just
cottage
delicious.
cheese.
But it has to be the right one. There's some cottage cheeses are bad. And twice in my life, I've bought pressed cottage cheese because they have it. It's like dried cottage cheese. I was like, what is this? Why do they sell it? I'll buy it. It was disgusting. And I've done it twice, like 3 years apart, because I forgot how bad it was the first time.
That's really funny.
I just like all cheeses. I realize how
Yeah.
much cheese I eat. It's too much, probably.
Yeah, same. And like for the lactose intolerance, I take lactose pills if I need it, if I'm having like a lot of cheese, or if I'm having melted, like if I'm having pizza or ice cream or something that's like more, either more like milky or just like melted cheese, then I do that. Otherwise, I could just eat like a brick of cheese and it's fine. But I think my favorite is Old Amsterdam, which is I think it's a type of Gouda, but it's not anything like Gouda that you would imagine. It's like kind of dark yellow, almost gold, and really strong tasting. And it's also called Beamster, I think, is like another name for it, or I don't know exactly. But it is so good. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. If I see it in the store, I'm like, oh my God, now. And then buy it and spend $7 billion per like gram of cheese, but it's so good.
Something I got fairly recently, like we have like a fancy organic store like up the road from us. and they have like cashew cheese. So instead of it being like milk based, I tried it. I don't really know what to compare it to, but it was pretty alright. It kind of reminded me of the laughing cow cheese, if you've ever seen those.
Yeah, yeah,
Like a more spreadable cheese.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I don't think it's something I would eat a lot, but it was nice to have like something close to cheese and not feel horrendously sick after.
Mm. Do the pills not work for you?
Not particularly. Like they help, but
Mm.
I can definitely tell like I still had cheese or like milk.
Yeah. There's a lot of surprising lactose-free cheeses that I just like have been buying for a while, and then look at the package one day, 2 years later, and I'm like, oh, it's actually lactose-free. That are good, but they're like hard cheeses I'm thinking of. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, this is why I wanted to include the cheese question, because obviously there's a lot to talk about on the topic of cheese.
I have the question. I'm kind of curious about how the game's netcode works. Does any of the viewers actually want to hear about the netcode?
I'm
And
sure some.
well, they have to say they want to hear it, or else I won't describe.
Okay, we'll go to a different one for now, and then see if they answer.
Who in our company goes for trap points?
Ooh.
Okay, answer that, and then I'll talk about netcode very briefly.
That's a good question. I'm gonna probably say Alex.
Would go for
What's
trap
your?
points?
Yeah.
I like. They are just
Oh.
the ice. They're just like the sprinkle on top of the game. Like you don't go for trap points.
I feel like
Don't you
most
though? Maybe it's me
people-
then.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it not normal to just rush and try to get the worst traps possible, like the hockey pucks, the arrow shooters? When I say the worst, I mean the worst ones is a player trying to run the thing, but the best at trying to kill people. Is it not?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I go for like the beehive every single time, so that I purposely grab it and then run around the entire level trying to chase people.
Like
to hit them with
now
it.
I want to play a random like a custom game where trap points are like way higher scored or something, and see if I can actually like think about the strategy of getting more trap points. Because I just never think about that. I'm just like, we have to make that possible. You're gonna die anyway. I just want the real points.
Angry Butcher with the boxing glove right next to Spawn is also my favorite way to introduce people to Ultimate Chicken Horse.
That is a good one.
It's a really good way to get your friends who are just starting. They never
Yeah.
expect it, and it always ends in a lot of laughter.
Okay, so how does the netcode of Ultimate Chicken Horse work? The simplest way to describe it is that when you're playing Ultimate Chicken Horse, everybody is playing their own local game of like version of the game on their computer. So your character is simulated right on your computer, and all of the items are being simulated on your computer. They're synced up just by the fact that the host, their computer says go right at the same time. So then everybody is going at approximately the same time, just the lag of the internet is slowing it down. And then once you start running, your position is sent to all the other players so they know where you are in the world, and can watch your character animate around. So like playing online or playing locally, you should have almost the exact same experience for your own character. There's some exceptions to all this, which is like any items that interact on both people's computer through time. There can be some issues with that. So like the coin, technically the host has a little advantage because the message of who touches the coin has to get sent to the host, and the message of who touched the coin first means that person will get the coin, so the host has a little advantage. Yeah, and like some angry butcher is saying, like, why isn't the pendulum always synced? It's because like the pendulum swings once every second and a half or something. So if there's a half-second delay between your computer and the other computer just because of ping, then stuff won't look like it's lining up.
But the key is that it always looks right on your computer for you. So
Yeah.
you're never going to just randomly die out of nowhere and be like what the
Yeah.
heck, that wasn't close to me, because it is. Yeah, we make sure that it's right on your computer. Even
And
if
like,
it looks like when people jump around a little bit, it seems like people hop around sometimes if the connection's not great. That's because they're like on their computer, it's right. They might look like they're going right through an arrow on your computer, but
yeah.
On their computer, they're not.
And like, I don't think there's a better way to do it for a game like this that would still feel fair. Because the moment that you tried to like make everything line up on everybody's system, you'd have to like lag your own character. Like your chicken would have to be slightly lagged on your own system so that it could be lined up correctly with the other items on the other people's computers.
Rollback
I think like,
code, right? Is that basically what
like
rollback is?
I think you'd have to do a rollback code system, and that just necessarily means that sometimes like your character actually gets rolled back a few frames, which I think for a platformer game would be bad. So
Yep. I mean, like if you look at, I've been watching Guilty Gear. Anything if you have a ping that's more than like 4 frames, it's like basically unplayable. At which point you have to have such immeasurable servers to handle that load, to match people from like North America to like Japan and have
yeah,
max 4 frames of lag. That's insane. It's crazy.
yeah. Like the thing that we could do better would be just getting the ping down, because we're using like Unity relay servers and they just aren't the most efficient system. But that would be really hard and make it more unreliable about how you get the connection between everybody.
There's some cool stuff that people do. I remember seeing a talk about this in a it wasn't a fighting game, but it was like a combat. What was the game where you could be either like Viking or samurai or
For Honor.
For Honor? Yeah. So it was a game like that. I'm not sure if it was actually For Honor, but it was a game that's similar kind of stuff. So it's like a third-person combat, really fast. And what they would do is they had like a few ways of making that work, but one thing is they would have however many frames of animation for a certain thing, like swinging, and then they would start the swing. And so if it's like 12 frames or whatever, they would like start the swing, and then they would check with the server. And if the server said that it had happened earlier, it just like skipped the animation frame. So it still looked like you were doing the sword swing. It's just looked that much faster because instead of being 12 frames of animation, it cut it down to like 3. And then it did the same thing on the other side of like person putting the shield up. If they put the shield up and it was a little bit too slow, it would like skip ahead. So they did all sorts of things about like pulling, like changing the animations and stuff to make it work.
Yeah.
And I just found it very interesting.
Oh, I just had.
They're still talking about like 0.03 seconds of adjustments, but still something.
I just had a silly idea, though I think it would work. Is there's a new technology that some network servers are starting to use where they put an atomic clock card in the server so that it has like a super precise time. And like, if you could improve the timing accuracy of the computers on either end in Ultimate Chicken Horse, the host could say at exactly 12:05 and this many seconds, this many milliseconds, start the round. So then you wouldn't have to have that round trip time of like the host says start the round and then it has to go through the internet and then you start. It'd be like at the same time everybody started. But you would need like super precise timing for that to work. You could probably fudge it a little bit to make it slightly better, but we won't break everything with that right now.
That's what multiplayer games are all about, is fudging it to make it look
Yeah.
and feel decent.
Yeah. There's
I
always
wanted
a
to point
balance, I
out
think.
there's a question that was brought up again that Jewish Hoser didn't want to get lost
Yes.
about doing the 3D animation. I mean, anyone could speak to that, but
So the 3D animation in the new trailer was something Fabio worked on. He's been diving deep into a program called Quill, which is a VR 3D program. So all the 3D in that was done in Quill, which is just like you draw in the air with your 3D, with your VR like handsets and your headset. So he would have more insight into how that is. He's away right now. I've done a bit of work in there, and it's just a much different interface than what I'm used to in like Maya or Blender for doing 3D animation. So you have to like learn all new menus and new techniques for how to do it. But it turned out quite well there.
I think something I would like for us to talk about briefly is like the pros and cons of 2D versus 3D animation really quick. Because I don't think people realize how much work the 2D is. I think some people may even think that 2D is less work for some reason. Maybe. But I don't think people realize how much work goes into 2D.
Well, and it also depends how you do it. We do it the hard way for my own reasons, I guess.
I guess for
Yeah.
2D, you I know, for example, I think it's Chameleon. Their dance frames is like 72 or 70 or 80 frames. That's just for one Chameleon. That doesn't include axolotl, and those are all hand drawn, right? Like each frame is drawn individually.
The chameleon one is a little like I bet it's something like 20 frames of like the actual moves, and then we quadrupled it so that we could do the hue shift of like the rainbow colored chameleon over time.
But the hue shift wasn't done manually. That wasn't done by hand, right?
No, it was probably done with After Effects, probably. But the point of just like how much work goes into the 2D animation is definitely true. That like in Ultimate Chicken Horse, we did quite a lot of frames per character, and every outfit is hand drawn onto all of those characters. Whereas in 3D, it's
it
just
depends.
a completely different workflow and challenge. One thing that's nice about 2D is like you know exactly, like you're drawing it and you know exactly kind of what you're going to get out of it when you show it on the screen. Whereas with the 3D animation, you don't always know which angle the camera will be at or in what situations it'll show up. So then you have like doing a walk animation for a 3D game is going to be a lot different from our walk animation. Yeah.
There's also in 2D animation, there's like puppet animation and there's frame by frame animation. And so in like stuff you're mentioning, people might think the 2D is that much easier. I guess it does depend, because if you're doing puppet animation, which is more like, Kyler, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like you draw pieces of the character, like their arms, for example, and then, or like the legs or whatever, and then the body stays the same from one frame to the next, but the leg goes like this, or the other leg goes like that. So you can animate them in kind of pieces. And a lot of games do that. It just makes for a very different style. And ours, we wanted a more hand-drawn look, and we weren't anticipating making 10 characters, I don't think, and outfits and all that. But
and it's partially it's just you can't get some of what we did with puppets. Like it would just end up being harder. Like if you were making a TV show and you needed like 30 minutes of footage of the characters every week, then it would make a lot of sense to like make those puppets that have all of the different variations. But when when we know kind of like, okay, we need 100 or 120 frames of the character, sometimes it's better just to do it by hand than to like set up rigs that you only have to use once. Though then there's also the outfits. If you did have the rig, then you can just stick outfits on it manually.
Yeah.
But then you don't get like
Depending on the outfit, yeah.
there's like the popped balloon where like if you're hippo and you die, the balloon pops, and that would be hard to like add to a rig. But if you're just drawing it, it's like, okay, I popped it. It's all good.
I think like smear frames. I watched an entire video about like smear frames and how that is basically impossible to do in 3D animation. Not impossible, but like you have to do weird things to make it work. So maybe it's less
it
animated.
actually would be way easier in Quill.
Yeah.
As 3D, but it has so many other implications of like Quill 3D is completely different from other 3D because you draw a whole animal or whole character and then go to the next frame, and you can reuse some of it, but sometimes you just have to redraw again, which increases like the data a lot of like, oh, every time you need to do a new frame, you kind of need new points for most of the character. Whereas in most 3D animation, it's just one mesh that's on a skeleton, and the skeleton is moved, and that skeleton moves the mesh, which is a lot less data comparatively.
And also easier to change like skins and stuff, right? Because instead of redrawing like 60 frames or something, you
it would be crazy to do.
You just do one thing, the animation's already done. It just
like my suspicion and hope would be that someone will do some graphics researcher will make an AI that takes Quill animation and like converts it into a more data compressed version that is, or like transforms it into a skin and figures out how to make it bend the way that you wanted it. Someone at Disney is probably working on it.
Except Quill's owned by Facebook, right?
No, they separated recently.
Oh, interesting.
Which is very
good news. I remember that. That is good news. Because I seem to remember Fabio the first time he did a Quill thing. I think he did make that kind of smear animation. Like he showed us an animation of, he used the same character. He made like a person, and I think it was like they were like pulling guns from behind this thing and then shooting. And I think he did like the character and then made the animation where he was moving his hands. But I think he like replaced the arms for a few frames to be like this weird smear arm and like smear arm, and then pop the arms back in, I think, when we was like exporting it. I remember something like that. It was very cool looking.
I think that's how Overwatch does it. They like broke bones to make weird smear frames.
That's cool.
Or add more bones.
Yeah.
Yeah, Quill is now is just its own thing. So it still only works on Oculus, but maybe they'll make more. I should bug them on their forum. Make it work on other things. I haven't been in VR in a long time, though. I have a VR headset, but I've not been using it.
Steph, if I refresh, am I going to break everything on Twitch?
Maybe. But you can do it quick if you want.
Just because the two of you froze like 25 minutes ago or so.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't seen your faces move for a while. I'm going to try it.
You can refresh real quick.
BRB.
I don't think.
What's going to happen? There
we go.
Rich.
I'm back.
Fine.
Phew.
Nice.
Angry Butcher with the increasing number of players, not really. We don't have any plans.
It would change a lot of things at this point in the game's life.
Yeah. So. Like you don't have enough characters unlocked at the beginning. The level balance stuff. Like you'd have to change the party box and how many things are in it.
And all of our UI isn't ready for it.
Yeah. I think this is like probably the biggest the best example of like the biggest feature that we think would have the most effect, but also has the biggest barrier to changing it. And so it's like one of the top features that's requested. And I mean, I would say probably in our like top interest, but also the barrier to changing it is so big that we just couldn't do it.
Carne de Monstro asks, the text is made with Unity standard text, not Text Mesh Pro, and you are correct. And that was a big problem.
Really?
So
I thought it was Text Mesh Pro.
No.
Really? That's so strange.
Yes.
I remember working with, like, I remember messing with all the text for the credits and all that stuff and the UI. I was sure we were using Text Mesh Pro. Huh.
You were using.
Did we use it for prototypes afterwards?
You were probably using Text Mesh but not Text Mesh Pro. Yeah, we used it for other prototypes after. The big problem we ran into was that the Unity's original text system, like when it starts up, it like creates all of the characters, and because we had such random UI with so many sizes of words and letters, it would crash PlayStations when we were developing. And then it went on to crash switches, and Text Mesh Pro would have solved many of those problems, but it wasn't on our radar when we started. Yes.
Hindsight is 2020.
If I could press one button and convert all the text, I would, but that would take weeks, months, or something.
Of like very tedious work.
Yeah. The only thing with Text Mesh Pro that I know it can do, but I don't know well enough, is like handling the usernames, like all the usernames of everybody that could join the game in all the different languages. I know it supports like fallback characters, but I don't know that very well, so I'd have to look into it more.
Here's a quick one. How did the name ClevEndeav come about?
Quick one, you say?
Before my time. Technically, it's
yeah,
before my time.
This was me. It's a good question. I don't know where. I don't know exactly where it came from. I know we spent a long time after I came up with it. We spent a long time looking at other options, and I think Kyler and I, and maybe Alex as well, made a list of like 100 different names, and none of them were actually better. There were a bunch that weren't worse, but they just weren't better.
Like the context was, Rich was creating the company and had already kind of made it ClevEndeav and had a website. At least when you met me, you had already started. So I just imagined that you had already just been like, "This is a fine name. Let's do this." And then I was like, "Okay."
So I remember talking to someone who ran an accelerator program, like incubator accelerator program, and I was like, I had thought of this name, and so I told them, I was like, I'm having a really hard time choosing a name. Like, what do you think of this one? And he was like, does anybody hate? I'm like, no. He's like, all right, it's good enough. He was basically like, it doesn't matter what you name your company, as long as it's not like horribly offensive. Your brand, however you build your brand, is how the company will be seen. So it just doesn't matter. In hindsight, we picked a name that had different spelling in Canadian and US spelling.
It's also very long, so you can't really do the usernames.
Yeah, exactly. And it also, email-wise, we had to change from cleverendeavorgames.com to ClevEndeav because I would say the email and then people would spell it the wrong way, the American way. We bought the domain name with the American spelling to link to the Canadian one, but yeah, definitely not ideal. It does sound nice, but it sounds nice if you're English speaking. It doesn't sound as nice if you're French speaking, because the word endeavor is just a strange word for someone whose second language is English. It's like not a very common word that comes up. So we get a lot of clever endeavors, clever endeavors, clever endeavors. And then, yeah, it's definitely not ideal, but it could be worse. So that's where we're at.
It's funny because Raw Fury, I know they often get Raw Furry. It's like in their
That's
Discord,
terrible.
the first thing at the beginning is like fury, like anger, or like whatever, and then it's like furry equals anthropomorphic. I'm just like, oh my god. And I saw recently Spooky Squid, who did Russian subway dogs. They've gotten a huge influx of people because they thought it was like the Squid Game or the big Netflix show.
Yeah.
So everyone came in thinking it was a Discord for that show, and so they had to be like, "This isn't it. If you're here for that game, it's not the Discord for you."
Time to pivot.
Yeah, exactly. Just change the Discord entirely.
Just on the topic of names, Danny asked, was it difficult naming Ultimate Chicken Horse? And I looked back at the records, and on September 5th, 2014, we made the first prototype. And on September 8th, I sent an email that suggested the name. So it took 3 days, which is like the fastest game naming I can possibly imagine.
Because it started as, well, the first time we brought it to show it to people, we called it Horse Block, right? But we didn't really call it anything. I think we just said we were like working on a name.
Yeah.
Or we might have said Horse Block, and then people were like, that's a terrible name.
But like we had the name figured, like at least thought up in 3 days, which is quite good.
Yeah. It's so funny to think back of some of these stories. People are like, oh, like how did this thing start? And like there are so many of them that I tell the story now and I'm like, I don't actually know if that's true. Like that's what I remember it as, but it's been like 5 years and I've told the same thing like 180 times, so that now I just believe whatever it is that I said that first time I made it up.
Well, this was an email,
yeah,
so I'm definitely sure.
It's true. There you go.
I should go back into like the really, really old videos and see.
Yeah, if the answers are the same.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to pick one more to round us off here?
Sure. Let's see.
Oh, Angry Butchers is asking about loot boxes. Loot boxes are given out based on your save file. So like the state of your save file will result in a loot box coming out when it's ready for you. In most cases, except for outfits, which I think are like a 1 in 4 chance of when the lobby loads, it'll just be like 1 in 4 chance should you get an outfit loot box that you don't already have. So there's no priority system for the host. It is random. And then the other players that are playing with you should have no direct impact on your loot boxes showing up. They will just always show up. And that, like, it doesn't matter who touches the loot box. If it was designated for you, you will get it.
It's possible that system doesn't always work 100% as expected, though, right?
Well, it's also random isn't like what true randomness doesn't feel random, right?
Yeah.
Like I think on Spotify they spent a lot of time and money trying to make the shuffle feel like what people think shuffle should be. Because if you do truly random, it can play like a couple of songs from like the same artist, like back to back. It was actually
and you'd be
random.
like, that's not random. You're like, yes, it is.
But people like didn't like that because they're like, it doesn't feel random. So if you look at how the algorithm works and like generally how people perceive randomness, like I can't remember, it's like the gambler's fallacy and stuff like that. Random doesn't always feel random.
Yeah, and Angry Butcher, there's one more thing, which is if you were playing on like a host map and they had like 7 levels unlocked, they will get an unlock once they play the newest level they have. If you want to get unlocks, you have to have full games played on every level. So it's possible that like they're unlocking level 8 and like everybody's playing, but you actually haven't like played a match on level 4 or 5, so your unlocks are kind of stuck because you haven't officially like played a match on that level. So that could be the thing that's blocking the unlocks from showing up for you. So make sure if you check your stats, make sure every level has games played on it. And if we redid this, I would probably change that, make it simpler.
Do you want to do a quick favorite pixel game to wrap it up?
Favorite pixel art game? Okay. Go Rich.
I'm going to say a tie. No, not a tie. My favorite one is Katana Zero. And everything about that game is perfect and amazing. And yeah, I loved it. The next one would be Dead Cells, except that Dead Cells is, well, it is pixel art sort of, but it's actually 3D, just made into looking like pixel art. So I don't know if that really counts. It's not proper pixel art per se. But yeah, those would be my two.
I also don't know if it
Steph?
counts, but I played Deltarune recently, Chapter 2, and I don't know, I really enjoyed it. So I think like the Undertale Deltarune might be my favorite. Maybe not the most traditional pixel art. If it was more traditional pixel art, I really like the art style of Owlboy. I thought it just really pushed the envelope of what pixel art could look like.
Yeah.
Things that jump to mind are Gunpoint. It's not that pretty, but when I just think of pixel art, that one jumps to my mind. And Unpacking.
I haven't even heard of Gunpoint.
And Unpacking, which isn't out yet, but I don't know, just the vibe of Unpacking. And I played the demo. It's just very satisfyingly drawn.
It is very good. I love the demo.
I think it's like the way that diagonals are just like those perfectly crisp diagonal lines. It's just great. Oh, and I guess I have to say like SimCity 2000.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Theme Hospital. The original Theme Hospital, I think, has to count just because like non-pixel art was not a thing at that time.
It was just like, art.
Do we say Doom? I guess Doom isn't pixel art either. It's also 3D. It's just like fake 3D. Well, because Doom, the original Doom, had 3D spaces, didn't it? I think.
Yeah. I'd almost argue that it's pixel art, but
like the sprites are pixel art, I guess. So
all games are pixel art.
Depends how small the pixels are.
Point. All right. Let's call it there then. I know. Sure. Really quickly, Kakoku asked if we play horror games. I can say no. I'm a big baby. I can't even handle Slenderman or Bioshock. How about you two?
I could play Bioshock. I couldn't play. What's that Montreal Studios scary game?
Outlast.
Dead by Daylight.
No, Outlast.
Outlast.
Oh.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Red Barrels.
I couldn't do it. I was just like, it's worse than like horror movies because I'm like in control. It's so much worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on the same page. I'm gonna say no.
Let's make a horror game. It'll be terrible to have to do.
Let's make a VR horror game.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah. The VR is a whole other level. All right.
I got through the scary part of Half-Life Alyx just fine though.
That's pretty good. Yeah, let's call it there then. Let's see. I'll be back for stream next Wednesday playing player levels. And I don't know. We'll announce the next ClevEndeav on Discord. I'll link our Discord There we go. So yeah, if you want to ask more questions, find out our stream schedule, or just chat with us more, go join that.
Yeah. Thanks for your questions, everybody.
Thank you.
Dean, thank you too for being here.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh no, I put my screen in the wrong place. Bye everyone.